Hey gang, and welcome back. Just a reminder, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com. You'll get 10% off orders over $10 and help with the channel at the same time. So before we get into this, just to remind everyone, I am going to be sending out the tweet today at noon to try and go for the spoiler card. So if you're planning on sending out the tweet with the picture and the hashtag SadSolemn, please be sure to watch for it, and I'll be sure to pin it as a comment in this video. This week we've got some old commanders, some new faces, and some new friends. Brie is back and she's playing Sean's Feldon deck, and she keeps a hand with Cathartic Reunion, Reiterate, Get to Encampment, 3 Mountains, and Bedlam Reveler. Sean is playing his Ramos deck and keeps a hand with Rashmi, Cloud Cover, Shivan Reef, Mistvein Border Post, Taiga, Fevered Visions, and Shardless Agent. Rob, who's new to the channel and is actually Joe's brother, is playing his Mathas deck and keeps a hand with Terramorphic Expanse, Rout, Queen Marchesa, Swamp, Ash Barrens, Mountain, and Rugged Prairie. Lastly, Kai is playing his Surrak deck and keeps a hand with Cinderglade, Mind Annihilation, Strionic Resonator, Spell Swindle, Anticipate, and Shivan Reef. Rob wins the die roll and starts us off. Rob plays a Terramorphic Expanse, and for the sake of speed, sacrifices to find a basic before passing. He grabs a Plains and passes to Brie. Brie plays a tapped Gitu Encampment and passes turn. Kai plays a tapped Cinderglade and also passes. Sean plays a Bayou and passes. Rob plays a Mountain and passes turn. Brie also plays a Mountain and passes turn. Kai plays a Shivan Reef and passes. At the end of Kai's turn, Rob cycles his Ash Barrens to find a swamp. Sean plays a Taiga and passes. Rob plays the swamp he found and casts Mathas. At the end of Rob's turn, Kai loses 1 from Shivan Reef to pay for the blue and Anticipate. Brie plays a tapped Valakut, the Molten Pinnacle, and passes turn. Kai plays a Temple of Mystery and scries the top card to the bottom of his library. This game has a lot of tap lands coming into play. Sean plays his own copy of Shivan Reef and casts Mistvein Border Post before passing to Rob. Rob plays another Swamp and casts Queen Marchesa. He becomes the Monarch and moves to combat. Rob hits Brie with Mathas for 3 and moves to his end of turn. Rob then draws from the Monarch trigger and passes. Brie plays another Mountain for her turn and casts Cathartic Reunion, discarding the Sculpting Steel and Bedlam Reveler before drawing 3. Kai plays an Island and evokes Mulldrifter. He draws 2 and the Elemental dies. Sean casts a Fevered Visions in his main phase and moves to his end step. Sean draws from the Visions at the end of his turn and passes. Rob plays a Rugged Prairie for his land for turn and casts Curse of Vitality on Sean. Moving to combat, Rob sends Mathas at Kai for 3 and Queen Marchesa at Sean for 3. Rob also gains 2 life from attacking Sean from the Curse trigger. Moving to his end of turn, Rob gets to draw 2, 1 from the Monarch and 1 from the Visions, before losing 2 from the Visions. Brie plays a Mountain tapped because she immediately drops a Soul Ring, also tapped, which is used to cast an Altar of Dementia. Brie then draws from the Vision and passes. Kai plays a Reliquary Tower and casts Tempt with Discovery. Brie, liking what she sees, decides to get on the mix by reverberating the spell. At this point, all logic gets pretty much thrown out the window, and everyone takes the Tempts. This gives Rob and Sean 2 searches, while Brie and Kai get to search for 4. Brie grabs 4 Mountains, which simultaneously turn on Valakut, and all see each other, and she puts all 4 triggers on Kai, dealing 12. Kai then draws for the Visions, and loses 2. Sean plays and cracks his Scalding Tarn, grabbing his Badlands. Sean then casts Rashmi, before deciding to cast a Shardless Agent. Sean then reveals off the top, until he hits Boros Charm. He has the charm deal 4 damage to Rob. Sean then moves to his end of turn and draws from the Visions. Rob plays a Temple of Silence, scrying his top card and keeping it there. He then moves to combat and once again swings Marchesa at Sean and Mathas at Kai. Sean chumps with his Shardless Agent while Rob gains 2 from the Curse trigger and Kai takes the hit. Rob then casts Twilight Prophet, gaining City's Blessing before moving to his end step and drawing 2 and losing 2 life. Rob isn't done though, and he has to put a bounty counter on something, and Rashmi being the only legal target, lucks out and gets it. Brie plays a Mountain and triggers Valakut. She targets Rashmi, who dies to the 3 damage. That didn't last long. With Rashmi dying, everyone but Sean draws a card and gains 2 life. Brie then brings out Feldon and passes turn. At the end of Brie's turn, Kai flashes in Surrak, and Brie draws a card from the Visions and loses 2. Kai plays a Mountain and pays 5 to cast Mindclaw Shaman. Kai decides to target Sean and goes through his hand to find an instant or a sorcery. Sadly, there's hot nothing for the Shaman to target, and Kai has to sadly give Sean's hand back without getting any benefit. Rob suggests that Kai swing at Sean to get some life back, and Kai takes him up on it. Sean takes 6 commander damage from Surrak, while Kai and Rob gain 2 life. I hop in for Sean while he's helping a customer, and I play a mountain for his land for turn, and I then cast Tana the Bloodsower. Moving to Sean's end of turn, I draw from the visions and pass to Rob. Rob's Twilight Prophet triggers on his upkeep, revealing Greed. Each of his opponents loses 4, while Rob gains 4 life. Rob then draws for his turn, and casts Trespasser's Curse on Brie. Rob then follows this up by paying 2 to cast Rakdos Signet, and moves to his combat step. He swings Mathas, who is Menace, at Sean, dealing 3 and gaining 2 life from his curse trigger. He then moves to his end of turn, drawing 2 and losing 2 life. He puts a bounty counter on the dud that was Mindclaw Shaman, and passes to Brie. Brie plays a mountain, and like a moth to the flame, hits the Mindclaw Shaman with the Valakut trigger, letting everyone but Kai gain 2 life and draw a card. Brie then casts Panharmonicon, fully aware of the non-bonus of the card in Rob's curse. Kai responds by casting Spell Swindle to counter Panharmonicon, as is the proper reaction to such a card, but Brie is ready with her copy of Reiterate, which she pays the buyback for. Brie's copy of Spell Swindle counters Kai's copy, and she gets 5 treasure tokens. Brie then sacrifices and spends all the mana from her treasure tokens to cast and equip Illusionist Bracers onto Feldon. Rob casts Swords to Plowshares in response to the equip, and Brie has no choice but to sacrifice Feldon to the altar, milling herself for 2 cards. Brie then moves to her end step, drawing a card and losing 2 life. Kai draws for his turn and casts Strionic Resonator. He then casts Goblin Dark Dwellers and targets Hypergenesis with his Enter the Battlefield trigger. He then casts Hypergenesis and sit down and buckle up. Kai starts us off and plays a Temple of Abandon. Sean then puts a cloud cover onto the field. Rob places a Heliod's Pilgrim. Brie puts down a mountain. We're not done though, as Kai puts out a Mind's Dilation. Sean plays Path of Metal. Rob puts down an Authority of the Consuls, and Brie drops another mountain. Let's do it again. Kai puts out Teferi. Sean drops Oath of Ajani. Rob puts down High Market, and Brie drops another mountain. And one last time, Kai plays his own copy of Rashmi. Sean drops Prime Speaker Zagana. Rob puts out Test of Endurance. Well, that escalated quickly, and Brie drops a mountain, and with that, everyone is done. Brie now has 4 Valakut triggers and uses 2 to kill Teferi and Rashmi, and the last one dealing 3 to Rob. Moving to Rob's triggers, he gains 3 life from the Authority of the Consuls, and he gets to tutor for an aura with the Pilgrim. Kai casts a Harmonize to help speed up his turn while Rob is searching. Brie decides to copy Harmonize with her bought back Reiterate, and it triggers the Mind's Dilation, revealing a mountain off the top. Rob then reveals his tutor target, and shows Overwhelming Splendor. Also, not to worry, Sean does draw from his Prime Speaker Zagana trigger. Moving to Sean's turn, he plays an Underground River for his land for turn, and casts Deny Reality, targeting Mind's Dilation. The Dilation trigger still resolves first, and Sean reveals a Dragonlair Spider, which Kai takes, and Rob gains 1. Sean then cascades into Aura Shards, and the Dilation is bounced back to Kai's hand. Sean then casts Saskia, the Unyielding, who comes into play tapped, and Rob gains 1. This triggers the Dragonlair Spider, giving Kai a Spider, and we realize Kai should have already had a Spider from when Sean cascaded into Aura Shards. This means that Rob gains the 2 more life that he needs to go to 50. Sean then has his Shards and Saskia trigger to resolve, and Sean puts the Shard trigger on the stack targeting Test of Endurance. Rob is ready though, and responds to the target by casting Teferi's Protection to phase himself out of the game. With everyone tapped out, and no real way to deal with the test on his upkeep, the table offers up the shake, and we move on to the next game. Game review time. So in addition to providing me with his deck list, Rob actually told me about the game, and he thinks he has 2 reasons as to why he won. The first reason being that Rob doesn't really believe that most people know what his deck is going to do when he sits down in front of them, and rightly so. Mathas doesn't really lend himself to one particular direction, and the bounty counters basically are incentive for other people to kill other people's creatures. Rob is then able to sort of sit back and gain life and card draw as he goes. The second reason he thinks is table politics, and the big turn that happened during the Hypergenesis resolving. Brie was able to deal 12 points of damage that turn, and she chose to remove some creatures as opposed to dealing damage to the person who just resolved Test of Endurance. Furthermore, had she not removed Teferi, Rob would have never been able to resolve the Teferi's Protection, and the Aura Shards would have taken care of Test of Endurance. Sean's Ramos deck seemed pretty neat, as it only plays multicolored spells, so I could imagine that Ramos gets very big very quickly, or Sean's able to generate a ton of mana very easily. Kai's Surrak deck seemed to certainly draw a lot of hate from everyone, and I'm not entirely certain that he deserved all of it. I believe his Surrak deck plays a lot more aggressively than we've been led to see in this video, but unfortunately he wasn't able to get any creatures to help keep people's life totals low. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in part by support from my Patreons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit my Patreon link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.